We haven't really done like a parenting specific episode in a while. The one thing that she was always allowed unlimited of was a book.
If you're a thermostat, you have control over the room.
So basically a holiday as a parent is like torture with your hand.
That was me rummaging through some skips or whatever it is you eat.
I do not. That's so creepy.
Louise, I'm just going to let you know straight out the gate that you look lovely.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're allowed to mention the brands, but if I was a woman, I'd be wanting to know what they are. For everything you've got on.
Oh, really? Right. Yeah. I'm in a brawler little outfit, skirt and a knitted jumper that is stunning, but it's made out of...
Cashmere?
Quite fluffy.
Is that cashmere?
No, it's actually not cashmere. They do a lot of cashmere.
It's very, very lovely.
Thank you. You want to get compliment?
No.
No. You have a very nice run.
No, but now that you mention it... I'm joking.
Although I actually am not sure about that style of Birkenstock on a man that has just run full stop, that does any running with those yellow toenails.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So whilst the peeps out there with the foot fetishes might be tuning in for these little friends,
maybe we could.
You might be putting them off.
We could swivel my chair this way, hide my feet.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I feel flipping fantastic. Thank you.
You're looking flipping fantastic as well. Fantastic is a word my dad uses a lot. I always found it a little bit too serious for me. Fantastic.
It's a bit dull, isn't it? It's like when people always go like, oh, I'm
fantastic,
excited. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, that's so fantastic. Oh, that's so gorgeous. Beautiful. Just adjectives that get used a lot.
Look at this little ruffian down here.
Little spatchcock chicken, Toto. So what do you want to talk about today? I thought we haven't really done like a parenting specific episode in a while.
Okay.
Remember we went through that phase where I love it when couples have to force conversations between each other. But we used to talk. It was actually something that an idea we got off Will, who's our videographer, photographer friend that we love and work with quite a lot.
Yeah.
He used to do it with his partner, and we used to sit down at the end of a weekend and we'd talk about parenting wins and parenting fails from that week.
Yeah.
And it was a nice way to like check in on our parenting in a non-abrasive way where we could both admit fault, but also then, big each other up as well.
Yeah.
Nice thing to do. Have you got any?
I would say that my parenting at the moment, since coming back from my trip, has felt really lovely.
So last month or so? You feel like you're on the money?
No, I just feel like I've sort of maybe refilled my patience tanks. He's also at a stage where he is just really fun, which we've said before, but just seeing him, taking him for tennis by myself was really cool. And then to get an ice cream after that, and more recently taking him down to jiujitsu, which I think is just very cool.
Should we talk about jiu-jitsu?
We can do, yeah.
So this is going to sound to people listening like we have lost the plot. Our son now does jiu-jitsu lesson 3 times a week. He's got tennis, he's got swimming at 8 a.m. on a Saturday straight into a jiu-jitsu sesh next door. It's kind of sounds like a full-on schedule, doesn't it?
I'm actually picking him up early this evening from nursery to take him to a class.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction was, okay, we've already got some of the sporty stuff covered. Look, I mean, it works for us. We're actually not pushy parents at all. It schedule-wise is quite nice to start the weekend with a full-on activity because you get it done, out of the way, burn out loads of energy so that then you can like enjoy the rest of the day. It like sets a good intention for the day. It's like you're up early, you're doing something fulfilling, you get to connect with your child. It's routine. He knows what he's doing. We know what we're doing, and then you can throw anything into the mix, like his birthday party, family meal, whatever you want to do. And he's like a little bit more tired and a little bit more chilled, and he's more likely to have a nap as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, it works. With the jiu-jitsu, I was quite worried because to me, I have very little understanding of what jiu-jitsu is. Other than he goes with our business partner, Scott, who lives next door, the Welsh guy.
Well, hang on. Let's refer to him as his godfather.
His godfather.
Yeah. Who is mad on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm being very informal here. Like, Scott's one of our best friends, and we go way back. And yeah, he's been going to jiujitsu. I don't want to speak for him, but almost as like a bit of a therapy over the last like couple of years. He went through a slightly hard time and he's thrown himself into it, and he does it really regularly, and he's incredible, and he's like working his way up through the belts.
Yeah.
And because I've never actually been able to see him do one of his competitions or fights, I don't know enough about it. So I thought, like, why would we want to get our little boy into something that feels very physical and potentially is violent? Now, you took him on the weekend and I wasn't allowed to go because that might throw him off if he's distracted if I'm there. But I decided to spy on him through the window, and I was actually blown away by the class, because I think that there's such an emphasis on like discipline, listening to instructions, and also it's more about like self-defense and being able to carry yourself in a way where you don't feel like threatened if you ever come into like contact with people. I think it's actually probably quite good for like relationship building and like trusting other kids. And I noticed that some of the slightly older ones, so I think the youngest you can do it is typically 4, but they've let him in and he's 3. And there was actually a child that was having a private lesson afterwards that was 2, who was amazing.
Yeah.
But they all help each other out, and they're very, very polite, and they learn how to control their body in a certain way. I think they like learn a different move, don't they, every week?
Yeah.
And it was really sweet seeing him in his in his gi. So he's got this like little mini black karate costume with a white belt, and his little fluffy chick head just pokes out.
And he's already got his first little stripe on his belt as well.
He's got a stripe on his belt. So actually, you've twisted my arm, and now I think it's a really good thing for little people to be doing, and I'm not scared.
It's a good interpretation of looking through the window, but wait till you get in there and you hear the way they speak to the children. It's incredible. They speak to them like they're not kids, first of all, but there's such an emphasis on respect. And I just think that would be a really good steer for someone like Leo, who is high energy, maybe a little bit chaotic, a little bit distracted sometimes in sports scenarios. So it will be a really good outlet for him. And I'm very excited by it. It's also very sweet for Scott, as one of his godfathers, to have that as his thing. Do you know what I mean? Because Scott obviously loves jiu-jitsu, and for now to like, you know, grab little Leo by the hand and walk him down and be involved, it's so sweet. And I'm really trying to make the effort to like sit on the boundary and just watch those two do it, because I want Scott to lead that, because I think that's really sweet. And if anything, like, due to various reasons, but they haven't really had that moment yet, and I think that's important.
It's actually really beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have his own kids, and actually not many of his friends have kids yet.
No. But he's very good. He's very good. And he's also very patient with Leo. So I'm really excited by it. It is bloody expensive, though. I will say that.
Is it?
Yes.
I don't even want to ask.
Don't.
Okay, so parenting fail is you've basically started giving Leo ice cream every single day, I've noticed, after nursery. He comes home, he's got one of those Smartie ice creams in his hand, the like push-up ones, before dinner.
Yeah, it's a big fail.
It's a big fail. And I'd say the other thing I've noticed that we've had to really grind a halt to is the pints of apple juice that he'll drink whenever we go anywhere. You'll go, would you like a juice, mate? Like we're in the pub and you're offering him a beer. And he'll be like, juice, apple juice. And then he gets a pint of juice.
It's not a pint, is it?
Yeah, sometimes there's a whole pint. And he's obsessed now with juice.
Sorry,
red juice, pink juice, orange juice, green juice. Not green juice in a good way, like not a celery or a broccoli juice. We're talking like just pure sugar apple, elderflower jobby. A lot of juice. And then he goes completely ballistic.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, one of the things that I'm not sure whether I can say that it's a fail or not, but I don't know whether we're responsible for this or not. Have you noticed what his new favourite flipping word is?
Poo.
Poo. Everything. Chocolate poo. He's obsessed with chocolate poo. Like, his favourite thing to say is chocolate poo. He'll go like, okay, Leo, did you have a good day at school? Chocolate poo. Would you like anything to eat for dinner? Poo. Chocolate poo. Or silly old man poo. Yeah. His favourite things to say are poo, chocolate poo, or silly old man. And I'm like, where have you got silly old man from? And also poo?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And then I was like, is it because of like our quite niche poo situations at home? I don't think it is. So I was at a restaurant with my mum when this first started happening, and it was actually when you were away. Damn it, I can't even blame it on you. And he was saying poo to everything in the restaurant. And my mum was like, rest assured, I've brought up a boy. Not that he's one that I would want Leo to emulate. But yeah, apparently they go through like a poo phase, and he'll be like poo poo bum bum wee wee, and then he'll like go like this in his bum and be like bum. I'm like, where are you picking up these habits from?
I have noticed it, yeah. I've tried to curtail it, but he's not having any of it. He said it this morning, I've got poo in my shorts.
You're obsessed with the way he says shorts.
I know.
But you know what? Okay, so on that note, one thing you have to stop doing. Last night you were farting and burping so loudly in front of him. And you think it's hilarious.
It is.
And you'll go, oh yeah. Oh, I've done. You literally, sorry, you now engage in the conversation. You're trying to sit there and pretend that you're just great. But actually,
No.
I will segue and go,
no, I called myself
like,
Barney
Leo,
off The
we don't
Simpsons
say
because
that.
I've let myself go.
You've really let yourself go.
I'm like Barney off The Simpsons. I drink
But also,
beer
you
and
start.
fart and burp.
Yeah, but you'll go. Oh, Leo, have you done it? Poo in your shorts. Poo
I know.
everything. You're like leaning into that.
Can I just check that you know who Barney is?
Of course, I know The Simpsons.
Because that reference is pretty accurate right now.
Okay, this is another thing that I just don't know where he's picked up from. He'll go, ooh, scary. Well, basically, whenever he sees an old person now, anyone, by the way, that's older than like 50, so not even old. Okay, maybe like 60, so our parents' age. And he will go like, ooh, scary. And then do like a witch impression with like long like fingers. I'll go like this and be like, like this. We were on the bus. And there was quite a kooky old lady sat behind us with like short, kind of like white afro, like but really short. And then was wearing like really colourful clothes and like glasses and stuff. Thank God he waited until she'd left, because she was really engaging with us. And she kept saying, oh, he's so cute. He's so beautiful. He looks like a girl, which, you know, he used to get quite a lot because he's just very cute. And he was just, and I find it awkward when someone sort of stare at people, and I'm like, come on, dude, like say something back, like be polite, or don't just stare at them, like looking at their like funny things, whatever they might be, like nails or whatever. But then this lady got off the bus and he just kept going, scary lady. We were at a birthday party, one of our really good nursery mum friends' kids' birthdays. Mm-hmm. And what her mum was just like circling around doing whatever, and he just like kept catching wind of her going, scary lady. And I was like, you can't, it's so offensive. Imagine being old and being like, oh my God, that kid thinks I'm a witch. So that's just horrendous. That's like the new wave of stuff that we've got to battle. I don't know about parenting wins. Like I guess he's moved up to a big boy bed now. So we had to get a TaskRabbit guy to come around to build that because you were quite up to the task. And I actually had a moment in his room where I was on my own for maybe like 20 minutes. You actually left me in there. I think you knew what was going on, where I took some time to like digest all of this change that we're going through with him growing up. Because it felt quite overwhelming getting rid of that like big piece of his furniture, the cot, which then transitioned into like a bit of a bed. And we've had that for over 3 years. And obviously that marks like a really significant period in our lives. It does for any parents, but also with all of the like trauma and stuff that we've been through. I spent a lot of time in that room on that chair, which I think we also have to get rid of because it's really old now.
Chair?
The tub chair, which they don't make anymore, which is so nice, but it's so dirty. It's got like cow paw on it, like dog paw prints. The dogs actually sleep on it, so they'd be gutted. They sneak in there every night, actually. Whenever I always check the monitor in the morning and try to see where they've slept, or I'll feel for like warm patches. Such a loser. And yeah, I just took a moment and I felt like quite emotional about the fact that he's growing up and that we had to get rid of that cot. And, you know, if we're not in a position to have more kids, you know, who knows really what the future holds for us. But it will be the last time we have like a cot in the bed, in the house even.
Yeah.
And it's funny seeing him get all sort of tall and gangly, but...
Tall and gangly.
Yeah.
He's not quite there yet on the tall.
Well, he is. He's like, people keep commenting saying he's like almost 3/4 of the size of me, which is going to be interesting.
Well,
It's not
that's
hard.
not tall.
They always say that, don't worry, sons are always taller than their mothers genetically. And I think you've not got that far to go. It's not saying a lot, is it? But
Your dad and Max think that he's going to, I don't know what it's based on, but they think he's going to be really tall. I think they think he is tall already, yeah.
Well, yeah, but what do they have to go off of? They're not ever around kids. They say if you measure them when they're 2, this is quite weird. So if you measure the height of a 2-year-old, apparently you then double that height, and that's going to be their full size height. But when you look at a 2-year-old and they're like down there, you're like, well, that's going to be really short. But it actually does work out at about.
I think that too. They can do predictions. I don't think it's double.
No, that's the sort of like old wives' tale-y thing.
No, but that wouldn't
Double the
work out.
height
A
at 2.
A 2-year-old double. Because when I was 2, they said I'd be 6'4". I can't be double me at 2.
You basically are like 6'4".
Yeah, but that's not 2.
Yeah, but you probably were 3'2". What? What's funny about that? Why is that funny?
I definitely wasn't 3'2" at 2 years old. I can tell
Yeah,
you that.
well, I'm only 5 foot. You're probably like.
I was not 3
2 years at 2.
At 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you're not 6'4", so.
Exactly. So it's a skewed metric.
So you might be 3'1". Fine. Anyway. Oh God, that's what my mum always says. Anyway. Rounds it all up. Oh, parenting.
Yeah.
Traveling with a child.
Well, he's actually got
got
much better in the car though, which is great because
Yeah.
he used to be very car sick.
I have a friend who literally only travels with their car with their kid in a taxi because they're like, I just can't travel in the car with my kid.
Do we have any travel tips then for car journeys with the little man?
Oh, just basically get him to do jiu-jitsu and swimming and tennis all in a row and then go on a long journey.
Well, okay, so there is something in that, the timing of it, right? So when we go away for a weekend, we'll often take him to nursery for the first half, collect him before the scheduled nap time, and then do the bulk of the journey then, which is maybe an obvious thing to do, but when you do it, you're like, oh, this was a smart move.
Yeah, we've been quite lucky recently, actually. We haven't gone overseas in a while together as a family, so we booked in our like sacred trip, and I'm calling it sacred because I'm doing everything in my power not to like burn out or get sick before we go away in July, because I want that to be our dream family holiday.
I'm very excited for that.
And I keep feeling really nostalgic about my own childhood. I keep talking about this place, La Quinta Club, where I used to go in the
the peaches or the nectarines or something.
Yeah, and I've got this like
you always
really...
go back to that one about nectarines.
I've got these like visions of me eating nectarines and like smoky bacon in Spain on holiday, watching Cartoon Network in the morning.
God, that sounds heavenly.
Doesn't it sound like heaven? And I really want to recreate that for myself, but also for our family.
Please do.
And I had a little look at that place. I was lying in bed with Leo and I was looking it up and I was like, I can't find it. And then I did. And it actually looks pretty basic, but it just goes to show that when you're a child, all you want is like a massive swimming pool. It had a bar
floaties
in the swimming pool with these like little seats. But my brother and I used to spend hours just on the steps, like the ladder going into the pool.
Yeah.
We would just go like down this ladder and then just like hold our breath for a minute or like 2 minutes. And that would occupy us for half a day. We would just go up and down this ladder.
Innocent fun. It's great.
So I'm actually thrilled about our little trip that we've got lined up.
Same.
But it can be terrible.
Well, we have had terrible experiences travelling with him.
Well, Leo used to get really car sick, so he'd vom everywhere, just like before we'd even got out of London. You see people on the side of the road. Then there's the whole rigmarole of like packing, and you're like, oh.
We always overpack for him. It's a
The overpacking is like, oh, okay, we're going away for 5 days. We need 500 nappies. Oh, he's getting through 10 a day at the moment. Yeah, that must equal 1,500. Oh, then the swimming nappies, 3 bottles of Calpol. Like, like a whole litre of sun cream, 10 pairs of trunks.
Why are you exaggerating? It wasn't a litre of sun
Someone actually sent me a
cream.
litre of sun cream the other day. It's from Goop and it's epic. But it's like heavy duty. By the time you get there and then you've unpacked, that's a whole 2 days of your life gone. So basically a holiday as a parent is like torture.
Moving shit from
you
one
basically
location
need
to
to
the
take a
next.
day off work just to pack everything because you've got to take the car seat, the pram. Sorry, the last few times that I think parenting
We haven't taken a pram, yes, I know.
We keep forgetting to take the pram anywhere with
Yeah,
us.
but the Paris one, fair. That was a mistake. I'll take
So
that.
then we have to carry our son for hours while we're walking around a city, all for 4 days, basically. Or we just alternate. He's on like your shoulders, then my shoulders. It's like crippling.
Yeah, but a part of me
back.
is like, a pram is useful if you're scooting around town or there's a nap that you need to like keep up with. But like,
Sorry. Most of life with a toddler is scooting around town or a nap.
Well, no,
that is what you do.
No,
you're always on the move.
No, because he's not going to be napping in the day anymore, is he? That's the latest from the press, which is nursery, by the way. He's going to be moving. He's progressing on from that.
Yeah, but like you need the pram. Is basically I need the pram.
Well, don't worry because I got you a new one. It arrived just a minute ago.
Oh, it did.
Yes.
Because I need a pram just to lean on, as like a
right.
as like a crutch.
So you basically want a handbag on wheels then?
Yes,
yeah.
It is a handbag. Sorry, that's actually exactly what it is. Because you can chuck a lot of crap under there.
Yeah, so, right, okay, this is all making sense. So when you're, like, flying at me in Paris and Wales, being like, where's the fucking pram?
No,
it's because you want your handbag on wheels.
I don't.
You want your little snack pile underneath.
Why are you like fondling it like that with your hand?
That was me rummaging through some skips or whatever it is you eat.
I do not. That's so creepy. I do not eat a prawn flavoured crisp. Yeah, what is it about travelling like as a family where you go and you also buy, because we'll take like a whole suitcase of snacks for the car, and also then stop off at like any petrol station and pick up 3 more bags of snacks, and then we're sat in the car's just like left skanky with like sausage roll packets, like open thermostat smelling. It just turns into
what do you
like
mean open thermostat?
You know what I mean?
Mate, you're a professional at exaggerating. You are. I can tell you that there's never been thermostat open in the car.
I actually love thermostat. I wonder how much screen time you're allowed as a child, because we didn't really have access to a lot of screens.
Neither did we.
Because we were the generation that, you know, I remember having like a massive TV that was like this and like big and brown. Do you know what I mean? No, it wasn't. No, not a flat screen TV. I mean, just like a boxy thick. It was like that deep.
I remember that
and there was like a VHR, and my mum had like VHS, and my mum had like a
VHR is the recorder.
The VHR for the
right?
family holidays with like little like strap with a little squishy bit on it.
I remember getting a purple Game Boy at whatever age, and I was pretty stoked on that. But
how old were you?
9 to 11, something like that. I remember a purple Game Boy.
That is quite young.
And I remember like really, really loving that. But that was like as far as the screen went.
I also got a Game Boy, and it was hologram. It was like see-through, so you could see all the mechanics inside it.
I remember that one.
And it was a really big one. So it was before the Game Boy Mini.
Oh.
It was like a real chunky one. And what games did you play?
Donkey Kong.
Super Mario.
Super Mario.
And then did you ever get to the Pokemon?
No, never. Do you know what? I missed out on that whole Pokemon thing. I don't know how or why.
I've started thinking more about like screen time, what Leo's going to be looking at quite a lot recently. It's a conversation I'm having quite a lot with like friends, or, you know, even if I'm sat next to people at like events that have kids. And I remember I was heavily influenced by the things that I'd watch. So we did have that funny old looking TV in the playroom, and I would sit down there with my brother. And I just remember watching like, there's a show called Bananas in Pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, this is really odd. Why are there bananas wearing pajamas? There was a show on Cartoon Network
Didn't one of them have a mustache as well?
Yeah, something like that.
How did that get commissioned?
And also Cow and Chicken. And this theme tune was Mama was a chicken, Dada was a cow. They didn't know how. Basically, they had kids. They had kids.
I never saw Chicken and Cow.
The mom was a chicken and dad was a cow, and they had like these kids, and the girl was a cow, and the son was a chicken. But it was like really creepy.
I never saw that.
The chat. And I remember being scared, and I also remember being scared of the child catcher in Chitty Bang Bang. And
my mum hates that child catcher as well.
so she does as well. Yeah. And I think that just what it says to me is that the things that kids look at can heavily influence their behaviour.
No, you weren't influenced by the child catcher, were you? You're not going around like scooping up kids in
I got
your
that
cage.
sentence wrong. What I mean is that I was scarred by those shows.
Yeah.
Because they left a really like
an imprint on your brain.
An imprint in my brain. And then I used to have nightmares, and I was touching my cousin. No, was it my cousin? Someone a few weeks ago. And they said that their child, they had been watching YouTube on their iPad. I think, like, you know, people do, don't they? They stick their kid in front of like an iPad at meal times or in the car, the back of the car.
I think that's
Whenever
the
you're
only exception to that
traveling,
rule, by the way.
and
Only
then
in-
you get these ad breaks in between, and you have no control over what advert's going to come up, and it can be. Well, I mean, yeah, that is an example, but they're not necessarily tailored to what the child's watching. I think you can probably be quite specific with settings and things, but then that their child was having really bad nightmares at night and coming up with these really weird stories that were involved in these nightmares, and they were directly correlated with what these adverts were. So I don't know, I think we should discuss our different parenting types. But I am definitely going to be someone that is going to be quite strict when it comes to screens.
Fine. All for it. Get him outdoors more.
I think it's hard when they then do go to school, and if some parents, there's a different rule for one child versus another child, and you can't then control how other parents parent. But I think we were perhaps the last generation that lived like blissfully without a lot of screen time as a
Yeah,
child.
but the world's changed a lot since then, don't forget.
I know, isn't that odd?
As in, I think kids, well, they told us at these school tours that they actually do at some point get their own device, and they do their own like IT courses and coding. And
I've actually asked this question, like how they integrate technology into their curriculum, because I think it's still really important to have
yeah, they seem to be
good,
aware of
you know,
the
phonic
balance,
skills and
yeah.
reading and writing and using your brain versus a computer's brain and AI, and being good, you know, doing a lot of like manual stuff as well. So like creating with your hands, resistant materials, art. I've listened to 2 conversations last week where people told me that when they were growing up, they weren't allowed any screen time. But the thing that they were allowed, okay, so one of them is actually mine, gives us a spray tan, and she is quite a bit younger than us. I'm going to go with like 8 to 10 years younger than us. She's one of the most cultured people I've ever come across. When she was growing up, she was allowed, the one thing that she was always allowed unlimited of was a book. So she could go into any shop and say, I'd like that book, I'd like that book, I'd like that book. Just unlimited books.
Yeah.
So
Just like a little
a real
Matilda.
encouragement to read, but then not to spend lots of time on screens. And another person, we were actually listening to a podcast, weren't we, in the car, that was an interview between somebody and
Somebody.
no, Evan Spiegel. Who's the founder of Snapchat?
Evan
Yeah.
Spiegel.
Evan Spiegel. He's obviously an incredibly successful man. Interestingly, he wasn't allowed screens when he was growing up, but then he went on to create something like Snapchat. But the only way that he was allowed a screen was if he built it himself. So if he wanted to use a computer, he had to build himself a computer. And then that encouraged him to kind of go on and do that, I guess. But he was also allowed unlimited access to books. How do we try and get that message across to Leo?
It's quite tricky because I
I
love
think-
Disney and I love the whole animation thing. And I have a lot of like warm, fuzzy memories as a kid, like watching cartoons on the weekend. And so I'm almost like,
Like, how do you stop that?
I'm not pushing it, but I look forward to those mornings. Like this morning, for example, we watched the Asterix and Obelix, the new one on Netflix. And I was like, this is actually really cool.
And that's just on a
And
casual Wednesday
Leo
morning.
looks at me like this. He's like, you know when he does that? He literally does that. He's like,
Yeah, but because it is monkey see, monkey do. So if we're not like devouring books weekly, then why would he?
yeah.
And actually, we only really read when we're not with him, when he's gone to bed, or in those like rare moments that we have to ourselves. So he's definitely not seeing us as like influential readers.
Well, maybe when I release my book, that will change
Yeah,
things.
because you're going to do a children's book, so at least you can read that to him. And I think we do read a lot with him. But it probably feels like a little bit boundaried, doesn't it? To say like, okay, no screens, but you can have any book you want, especially if we like to watch TV, which, to be honest, actually, I don't watch an awful lot of TV. It's definitely a you thing.
Yeah, it's a me thing. Soz.
No, I mean, I don't mind. Actually, sometimes I get a bit bossy with it. I can be a bit controlling if then Leo comes into the picture. I really don't want him saying things that are have got a lot of violence in them. And we have had
but you're right to do
we've
that.
had arguments over that before.
Yeah, but
and my go-to is always, but would your brothers let their kids?
No, I think you are right to do that. So you have free reign to pull me up on that.
Okay, can we make like a little pact then? That's the one thing that we just don't ever have on in the background. I'll never have on trashy Real Housewives with swearing and
Slapping.
lame fights, and you never have
Yeah, fair
violence.
enough. I suppose the motivation to read a book or listen to a podcast is that you're wanting to learn something. Whereas, like, in my mind, if I put something on the TV, I'm probably just looking for like escape and distraction. But that's not good for a 3-year-old who is copying everything we do. Some of the most like poignant lessons I've learnt and taken in are from podcasts and books.
The thing about a book is it's one, you're using one sense. Like you're using your eyes to read. No, but when you're listening to a podcast, you're just using your ears to listen. It's a lot combining those senses and watching something on TV that's really loud, and then you've got all this like visual stimulation as well. It's just a lot like slower and quieter and more gentle to do one at a time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Tell me what you learned recently in this book.
No, it wasn't a book, it was a podcast. And it was one of those, like, I had to replay it to take it in because it was so great. I suppose it's understanding the influence and impact you have on other people.
So could this be relevant to parenting at all? Or more like adult conversation?
No, I think it could, yeah, because as parents we can set the tone and lead by example to our little ones. So basically there's 2 types of personalities that you can be. And I guess ultimately the choice is on us to choose which way we go with it. But you can either be a thermometer or a thermostat. Mm-hmm. And the differences are, if you're a thermostat, you have control over the room. So you can influence and impact how people are feeling in that room by your self, your energy, your nature. I suppose it's a bit of like leadership qualities that might be oozing out a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. But if you walk into a room as a thermostat and you sense the energy's low, you have the ability to lift it up, and you can change the temperature in the room, and everyone else changes with you.
Mm-hmm. So you can be that person that makes a difference that everyone notices when you walk into a room.
Yeah, but by the way, this doesn't have to be like the loudest, most obvious person in the room. Mm-hmm. This can be someone who can like really like tactfully have an impact on someone and just turn their thermostat up. It's really cool when you think of it like that. And then the opposite side of that was the thermometer, and that would be the room has more control over you. So you're influenced by the mood, and you instantly go to that temperature.
And so these 2 different kinds of people are either people that are heavily influenced by the people like chameleons, or they're people that are, no, I was going to say above. That would be really wrong because no one's above anybody else. But they're like influencers. Either you're an influence or you're an influencee. You're an influencer or you're being influenced.
Yeah, and I think we have a responsibility with Leo involved to give him the confidence, because he is a very loving, caring boy. He doesn't need to be he doesn't need to be a thermometer in this regard. He can be the thermostat. He can positively impact people around him.
Are people naturally either a thermostat or a thermometer, or can people change into one of those 2?
You could say that it's maybe mimicking the introvert versus extrovert thing. But then when you have a deeper understanding of what that actually means, and again, the best analogy for that was the tokens.
Oh, yeah.
An introvert will start the day with 5 tokens, spend them throughout the day. Come the end of the day, he's like, whoa, I'm spent. An extrovert starts with nothing, but he gains his coins and energy from experiences throughout the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same kind of style in terms of like what we're looking at there with the thermometer and thermostat. Can I give you an example of how we can like steer this with this idea of a thermometer or a thermostat, or knowing yourself and having the confidence to decide which way to go behaviorally or how you respond to something? Can I give you an example?
Yeah, of course.
When we were at someone's party recently with bouncy castles in the backyard, 2 children a little bit older, pretty boisterous, too much for our style. In that moment, we kind of let Leo adjust to it and see what was going on. In hindsight, we could have had a little chat with him in a quiet moment and be like, just because they're acting and behaving that way doesn't mean that you have to follow suit and join in. That's an example of how we can course correct and be like, remember, The thermostat, thermometer.
Yes, that's a good point.
There you go. Oh, see, I'm just...
And actually, especially when you've got kids, it takes one bad kid amongst a class of 20 to become a ringleader and to change the whole dynamic of a classroom. That's actually, though, it's interesting what you said there about like taking your child to one side and explaining the situation, that like maybe their behavior looks like that, but you don't need to join in, and
That's key.
you don't need to like play up to that. Instead, you know, the easy route would probably just be to like remove your child, or to get like annoyed, or to slag off the other parenting style. But instead,
Exactly. You've got to
keep your kid, like, you know, you've got to bring them in, and you've got to trust them and speak to them like an adult and say like, okay, look, like that behavior, it's a bit messy, or
it's not for you.
bad, or it's
not for you, dude.
Shall I read out a listener submission?
Yeah.
Okay. She said, my husband doesn't get on with my brothers. Hi, Ryan and Louise. First off, I love the podcast and look forward to it every week. I hope you're both well. I have a bit of a dilemma I'm hoping you might be able to help with. I've been with my partner for 5 years and we have a 2-year-old son together. My husband is confident, self-made and respectful. He believes in treating others with respect and expects the same in return. The issue is, I have 2 brothers who like to banter, but it often crosses the line into being immature and disrespectful. My husband does his best to take it on the chin, and I've had several conversations with my brothers asking them to tone it down, which they have to an extent. However, after a few too many recent family weekends, my husband has said he feels they've disrespected him one too many times. He's now said he doesn't want them around our son as much, as he doesn't believe they're good role models. This is literally what we were just talking about. This was hard for me to hear, but I also understand why he feels hurt and why he wouldn't want our son picking up those habits. Do you have any advice on how to approach this? How can I get my brothers to understand and change their behavior? Love you. Take care.
Wow.
Love that sign off. That is exactly what we were just talking about.
I've had a similar experience to this before with a friend, and it took a long time for me to figure out a way to have the conversation to kind of remedy it, because for such a long time, the exchange of words, even if it was meant in a jovial kind of banterish way, I just wasn't receiving it that way. And there were multiple examples in different scenarios with friends, family, solo, one-on-one, where it was not landing very well. And it made me feel, and this is actually before even Leo was a thing. But I remember it made me feel really uneasy and uncomfortable in different situations. So I had to have a conversation where I just basically told him that. And I was like, either it's your delivery or it's my interpretation of it, or there's a miscommunication. Whatever it was, it needed to be changed. And thankfully, it has been changed ever since, and it's improved it. But it sounds like a similar conversation would be really helpful in that regard. I kind of respect the dad in a way, because he's protecting his little one, and he's mindful of that environment and the culture and all those like social inputs, which is really important to take note of and be aware of. So I respect him for that, but I wonder if it's just maybe a little bit too extreme. Especially, did they say they're married?
They've got a 2-year-old.
Well, they've got kids together, so they're pretty interlinked. Like, it's a pretty solid unit. In order to make it smoother down the road, you know, with family gatherings and whatever else, that conversation should really just happen.
Yes.
Because in my experience, just in summary, before you have your say, it might just be a miscommunication. Back to my example, the stuff that I was receiving was meant as like that person's love language almost.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm trying to banter with you and highlight you in scenarios because I want more of you.
Yeah.
But on the receiving end of it, I was like, what are you doing? You're making me feel super uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it might just be their style of love language or something similar, if that makes sense. Over to you, my dear.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I think the one thing I've always respected about you is that you don't just adapt to the people that you're around, and you don't put up with behavior if it doesn't align with your values. You're not a nodding dog. You're not just like, yeah. And actually, that's a very attractive attribute to have as a man.
Thermostat.
It's exactly. You're a bit like, shut up. I'm
just joking.
I'm a thermostat.
I'm just joking.
But yeah, you are then a bit more like a thermostat. And it sounds like this guy is as well. He's not willing just to hang out with people, just to take the easy route. And I think sometimes you do.
Do you have experience of this in your world?
Well, I'm very lucky because I get along really well with both of your brothers and their wives. I'm somebody that I do take like the easy route often. I just like to get along with people. And so I think even if there are, say I'm around a dinner table on a night out and there are people whose values do not align with mine at all, I'm not going to waste my time judging them or looking at them funny or even really thinking about it. I'm like gravitate towards the people that I do get along with, but I would never be confrontational about it. I would never make it known that I didn't really like those people.
But that doesn't really answer my question. Can I ask you this question instead? It might be easier.
Yeah, but do you get that though? Whereas like
Yes.
it's really obvious. It's like smacked right across your face if you don't like somebody.
Yeah.
So if we're like out in public and there's someone across the table that is talking and you don't think that, you'll do this. Like as we've already discussed in the podcast, you'll like swear at them under the table, or you'll like just turn away. You'll like leave the conversation if someone says something and it pisses you off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you actually can't do that because it's making more drama out of a situation. I'd rather just sweep the problems under the carpet and get on with it. And so I think in this situation, I'd probably do anything in my power to get along with the family members. I don't know, what is that banter? Where does that stem from?
I would say that it's a little bit of like
It's like siblings shit chat.
It's like a
isn't
hierarchy. It's like I'm going to peg you down just a little bit before we get into this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just going to remind you that you're the baby here. And they'll say something that they know is going to fucking upset me internally. You know what I mean?
But I don't think people actually do it with the intention of like being a brute and trying to upset somebody.
No.
It sort of becomes a natural.
It's like I'm gonna mask
thing.
my slight uncomfortable lack of confidence by making you feel more.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that person, you're already awkward in a group, and so you're going to pick on someone to make them feel worse than you. Yeah. Anyway, so perhaps it's a case of that. Perhaps these brothers have that's the way that they've learnt to mask their lack of confidence and just taking the piss out of other people. Being immature.
He could also just return shot and also just play ball how they play ball.
Yeah, but you would never do that. You never stoop to people's level.
Well, no.
So I don't think that's the best advice.
Scrap that then.
No, I think it's a good suggestion. It's nice we're like just thinking out loud. But it's hard. Like, you know, if your husband's going, actually, I don't really want to hang out with your family anymore, and that applies to your child as well, that's a big...
Yeah, but that can't happen really with the baby involved.
It's kind of a big problem.
There has to be a ground where they can fix.
Do you think it's on her to speak to her brothers or for him to speak to the brothers?
She has a role to play, but the penny will drop when he has the conversation with them, I would say.
Well, there's two boys and a girl, and maybe, you know, they always had that relationship as siblings where like they would all take the piss out of each other and be immature and disrespectful and cross the line, which is kind of more acceptable when you're all family because there's like an undertone of like love, and because he's now married into that side to the sister, they probably think that they can do it to him too. Oh, I actually would love to hear how this goes and how this unfolds because it's such a juicy...
We should do an episode where we're like, how did this advice go? Tell us what happened.
So keep talking to us. Gosh, that's such a thought-provoking submission. I bet there's loads of people out there that can relate to that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love for you guys to keep sending them in. We love the diversity of topics that we get to talk about.
I would actually really love to like really find out the solution if there is one as well. If they could write back.
Yeah.
Let us know how you get on.
Well, you better head off to go and take Leo to jiu-jitsu.
Damn straight.
Does that mean I now get a little...
Yes, you get extra time to watch Housewives, yeah.
Need to get some other material.
Gentle reminder.
If you guys enjoyed listening to this episode or any of the other episodes, then please do give us a follow or a like or a rating. You can even pop a little review. And if you wanted to recommend an episode to a friend, we would really appreciate that, as it helps us spread the message and encourage people to have sometimes tricky conversations.